The rain fell steadily outside, tapping against the window like a metronome, keeping time with the heavy rhythm of James's heart. He sat in the dimly lit living room, his hands trembling as he clutched a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid swirled, catching the faint light from the lamp, but it offered no comfort. His mind was a storm, swirling with memories he couldn't escape. It had started innocently enough. James had always been friendly with his neighbors, the Millers. Tom and Sarah were a charming couple, always quick with a smile or a wave. They had moved in a few years ago, and over time, James had grown close to them. Tom was often away on business trips, leaving Sarah alone in their spacious home. James, a divorced man in his late 30s, had found himself drawn to her warmth and kindness. One evening, after a neighborhood barbecue, James had stayed behind to help Sarah clean up. The air was thick with the scent of grilled meat and laughter, and as they worked side by side, something shifted. A casual touch lingered too long, a glance held more meaning than it should have. Before either of them could fully comprehend what was happening, they were in each other's arms, consumed by a passion that neither had anticipated. The affair had lasted for months, a secret buried beneath layers of guilt and denial. James had tried to convince himself that it was just a fleeting connection, something that would fade with time. But the weight of his actions grew heavier with each passing day. He couldn't look Tom in the eye, couldn't shake the feeling that he had betrayed not just his neighbor, but his own moral compass. Now, sitting in the quiet of his living room, James knew he couldn't keep the secret any longer. The guilt was eating him alive, a cancer that spread with every lie he told. He had to confess, not just to Tom, but to himself. He had to face the consequences of his actions, no matter how painful they might be. With a deep breath, James set down his glass and reached for his phone. His fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before he dialed Tom's number. The phone rang once, twice, and then Tom's voice came through, cheerful and unsuspecting. "Hey, James. What's up?" James swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Tom, I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" There was a pause on the other end, and then Tom's voice grew serious. "Yeah, of course. I'll be right there." The minutes that followed felt like an eternity. James paced the room, his mind racing with thoughts of what he would say, how Tom would react. When the doorbell finally rang, he froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He forced himself to move, to open the door and face the man he had wronged. Tom stood on the doorstep, his face a mixture of curiosity and concern. "James, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." James stepped aside, gesturing for Tom to come in. "Please, sit down. There's something I need to tell you." Tom hesitated for a moment before stepping inside and taking a seat on the couch. James sat across from him, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He took a deep breath, the words he had rehearsed 1,000 times in his mind now stuck in his throat. "Tom," he began, his voice trembling, "I've done something terrible. Something I can't forgive myself for." Tom's brow furrowed, his concern deepening. "James, whatever it is, you can tell me. We're friends, right?" James nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. "That's just it, Tom. I betrayed our friendship. I had an affair with Sarah." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Tom's face went pale, his eyes wide with shock. For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at James as if trying to comprehend what he had just heard. "You, what?" Tom finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. James lowered his head, unable to meet Tom's gaze. "I'm so sorry, Tom. I never meant for this to happen. It just did. And I know there's no excuse for what I've done. I needed to tell you. I couldn't keep lying to you." Tom sat in stunned silence, his mind reeling. The room felt like it was closing in on him, the walls pressing in as the weight of James's confession settled over him. He had trusted James, considered him a friend. And now, that trust had been shattered. I don't know what to say," Tom finally said, his voice shaking. "How long has this been going on?" James hesitated, then admitted, "A few months. It started after one of your business trips. I don't know how it happened, Tom. I never wanted to hurt you." Tom stood up abruptly, his hands clenched into fists. "But you did, James. You hurt me. You hurt Sarah. You hurt all of us." James nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I know. And I'll never forgive myself for that. I needed to tell you the truth. You deserve to know." Tom took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He felt a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, all swirling together in a chaotic storm. He needed time to process, to think. I need to go," Tom said, his voice barely audible. "I need to talk to Sarah." James nodded, his heart breaking as he watched Tom walk to the door. He wanted to say more, to beg for forgiveness, but he knew it wasn't his place. He had done enough damage already. As Tom stepped out into the rain, James collapsed onto the couch, his body racked with sobs. He had confessed, but the weight of his guilt was still there, pressing down on him like a leaden blanket. He had lost a friend, betrayed a trust, and shattered a marriage. And he knew that no amount of remorse could ever make it right.